One of the players that the Chicago Bulls are most likely reportedly to move at this trade deadline if they do become active is Lonzo Ball. On today's episode, we're going to talk about the reports that the Bulls have held trade talks with several teams on the talented guard that's still returning back, making his way back from injury. We're going to talk about it all and more right after this.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bulls Central, hosted by Haize, your number one spot for all things Chicago Bulls.
What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. I'm the host here, Haize, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Bulls Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's get into this rumor real quick video here. So according to Evan Sidgery, the Chicago Bulls have held trade talks centered around Lonzo Ball with the Los Angeles Clippers, the Miami Heat, the Charlotte Hornets, the Los Angeles Lakers, the Orlando Magic, the Detroit Pistons, and the Minnesota Timberwolves. And the reported talks are centered around, of course, moving Lonzo Ball's $21.3 million contract in exchange for second-round draft picks. Now, here's the thing I'm going to respond to with this. First of all, if this many teams are hitting you up about Lonzo Ball and you walk away with only a second-round pick, I got questions on how you're negotiating. If you can't negotiate a heavily protected first-round pick with 7 teams hitting you up about second-round picks, I got a little bit of concern there. Now, when it comes down to it as well, I do think that Lonzo Ball makes sense for each one of these teams in different ways. You look at the Los Angeles Clippers. Could they use a defensive point guard to help go there with what they have going on there? Yeah, they could. I think that if you are able to bring in Lonzo Ball, who can play either with James Harden or come in to back up James Harden in times where James Harden sits, it makes a lot of sense for that Clippers team. The Miami Heat, yeah, he makes sense. Heat culture, Lonzo Ball would be a perfect player for Heat culture. He can play well next to Tyler Hero on top of that. He can get Bam Adebayo the ball. You get Khalil Ware and Lonzo Ball in a pick and roll rhythm, that could be dangerous for you as well. The Charlotte Hornets make sense only because LaMelo Ball is there. I don't know how much it makes sense otherwise. We've already talked about the Lakers as being a possible destination for Lonzo Ball. That makes a lot of sense for what they need as far as what they're looking for defense and at the point guard position. The Magic, he adds some much-needed shooting for them. He could come in, back up Jalen Suggs. He can play next to Jalen Suggs as well. That makes a lot of sense for them. The Detroit Pistons, maybe not the most sense that it makes there, but I like that. And I tell you what, if you let Lonzo Ball get to the Minnesota Timberwolves and he can be in a backcourt with Anthony Edwards, hey, listen, I'm telling y'all right now, it would determine by how healthy Lonzo Ball can stay. But if you are telling me that you can get Lonzo Ball and Anthony Edwards on the same team for some second-round picks, why ain't they did it already? And that's where this report comes into question for me a little bit, that if he makes a lot of sense for all these teams. And if it all is taking is some second-round picks, why hasn't the deal got done yet? Is it concern over Lonzo Ball's injury history, which could be something there that could make some sense? Is it because they're contemplating, should we even trade for him? We could just wait it out and try to sign him in unrestricted free agency at the end of the year. You can sell me on that. That would make some sense for teams to wait as well. And it just comes down to what are the Bulls really asking for, and also the salary cap matching. Now, Jaden McDaniels is somebody who has not worked out with that team while they have Julius Randle. He's actually been one of the worst plus-minus players on that team since they acquired that version of the team. But then again, you're not going to get a second-round pick and Jaden McDaniels, so maybe that makes some sense on why that hasn't happened for the Minnesota Timberwolves. Overall, it's a lot of questions here. If these many teams are, then, it is what it is. But I do think that it's not a surprise with how Lonzo Ball has played, how Lonzo Ball has impacted for the Chicago Bulls, that teams that are playoff caliber teams are coming calling about Lonzo. Now, I would also say that for the Chicago Bulls, it could help them to wait to maybe some other deals go down till they decide to move Lonzo. But as we get closer and closer to the trade deadline, I think as we keep looking for this, keep a lookout for how it ends up shaking out for Lonzo Ball here. Keep a lookout for that. Because I do think that is something that It could happen. And I know a lot of Bulls fans just don't want to see Lonzo moved. I completely understand it. But as I've said always when it comes to Lonzo, is that if the Bulls know that Lonzo's not part of their long-term plans, then it's best to move him. That's it. I'm not saying that if he should be part of the long-term plans, if I agree with him not being part of the long-term plans, that all has nothing to do with this conversation. If the Bulls know, the Chicago Bulls are sitting there and understand and know, we do not plan on bringing Lonzo Ball back because we don't want to give him the contract. That money needs to be allocated elsewhere. We have more guards, whatever it is. You move them. You get something back, you move them, and you get something of what you can in return for that. That's just what you do. So we'll see what the case ends up being there. I don't know exactly how it's going to shake out. I'm not gonna act like I have all the answers for that. But I think that the more and more we hear it, it's a real possibility that Lonzo Ball could be moved. Now that also means that AK would have to get over his completion anxiety and actually pull the trigger on something. But we'll see what happens there. All right. NIE shop Lonzo before the screw comes out of Benjamin Franklin's. Stop it. That's mean. That's mean. Stop that. But we'll see, man. I think overall, this teams being in on Lonzo is not something that surprises me. The Bulls striking and being able to actually complete a deal that makes some sense for them, that actually surprises me a little bit. What's good, bro? Watching from KC, go Chiefs. Hey, listen, shout out to y'all with the Chiefs, man. Shout out to y'all. It would be nice for Chicago to be able to have a team that can go on consistent runs like that. I love Zoe. He's been great, but we need to spend that money elsewhere. I mean, I feel you. And I know people are like, well, just offer him a team-friendly contract. There's no guarantee he's going to take that. This could very well be the last contract of Lonzo Ball's career. Just could be, right? So Lonzo could be looking to get the most money possible, which I can't be mad at him if he does. And we'll see what happens if that's the case, right? But the Bulls, if they know, the Bulls know that they aren't willing to give Lonzo Ball a decent offer to keep him here, you got to move him. And I think all these teams that are interested in here and having some talks with the Bulls, they all make sense. They all make sense. Yeah, they all make sense. And I wouldn't be surprised if some of these are as far as like in a 3-team trade. Could be for some of these teams as well. So, you got to see how things are going to shake out for the Bulls. I think that the Bulls lost a lot of flexibility when they decided to, have a full roster of all fully guaranteed contracts. I think that's just by the nature, it gives you a lot less flexibility. You don't have the ability to take more contracts back than you send out, right? So that's something that's interesting in a case like this, but it is what it is. That's what the Bulls have to work with. And now they just got to figure out the best way to go about it and get things done. So we'll see what happens there. The Lakers want him the most. There's nothing to be said about that for sure. There's nothing to be said about that for sure. We don't know what the Lakers want to do. Especially when you got LeBron and AD asking for a center. So I don't know if that's what the Lakers want to do the most, but we'll see. And if they do, the Bulls should take advantage of it and find a way to complete the damn deal. That's just the way that I'm looking at it. So hopefully that they can get it done, y'all. I just hope that the Bulls can get something done that makes sense for the future of this team, even if it upsets some Bulls fans right away, because Lonzo's having a great season for the Chicago Bulls. I do not want to undercut that at all. The season that Lonzo Ball is having for this Bulls team has been good, especially with all things considering. He's making history every time he steps out there on the court with returning from this injury and playing, for the most part, like Lonzo Ball. But with the flip side of that, he almost had another season-ending surgery this year. Right? If that wrist sprain was a little bit worse, they already said it. It would have been a needed surgery. It would have ended the season. And that's just how Lonzo Ball's career has been. It's not just the knee. So many people say, well, he got a new knee. It's not just the knee, though. When it comes to Lonzo, it's the history of injuries that he has that is the most concerning there. So that's what may be causing a little trepidation by some teams, because it's not just the knee. Now, make no mistake, the knee is a huge part of it, like no doubt, but it's not just the knee. Do you think Levine will get traded for a bigger star? Do they keep Zach and get another star? And who would they get? I don't think either one of those things are true. It's not either or. They're probably not going to trade Zach, and they're not going to get another star. They're gonna go get their draft pick. They're gonna draft their player, and they're gonna keep trying to build. Maybe move Zach later down the road. But at this point, I don't think Zach LaVine's getting moved. I just don't think that he is. The Lakers are more scared of making trades because of the Westbrook trade. Yeah, that's a fact. That's an absolute fact there. No doubt, no argument for me there at all. And that's something that's really limited that team, and I think it's terrified them a long part of it. So, but we'll see what the future holds. But Lonzo, is he on the move? Will he be on the move? We'll see what happens there. But guys, thank you so much for tuning in. It is game day. Make sure you guys are following the channel at Bull Central Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns. bullcentralpod@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We are the number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related, but that's thanks to you lovely and beautiful people. And like I like to end every episode on, go Bulls. Love you guys. See you right if you can, y'all. Peace. I'll see you guys at halftime.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.